Welcome to Felina's classroom. The following presentation contains its own footnotes, additional information on screen with footnotes and references below, dedicated to the life of Jaylin Wiley, and the swift action, heroism, intrinsic bravery of Deputy Blaine Gaitskill, without whom, who knows. So we have right here in Maryland, a resource officer stopped a school shooting in seconds. A 17-year-old had opened fired, and he was gunned down immediately within seconds. And we have no idea how many children would have been killed. But there's your example right away. Here he was, Johnny on the spot, doing his job, Deputy Blaine Gaitskill, and the name of the shooter was Austin Wyatt Rollins. Now, see how quickly this gets pushed under the rug? This should be all over. The students say, well, yeah, that's exactly what we needed at our school. Every school should have a guy like that. And you know what? The problem would be solved. Nobody would be talking about taking a gun away. Now, what's better about a gun as protection, as for security guard? What's best? Why is it good to have a gun? Well, remember the Nice terrorist attack a few years ago? There was a truck. See, now the terrorists are using trucks. They went from explosives, and they're still using explosives. And now they're using trucks, big trucks. They just turn the truck and then mow down a lot of people. You can kill as many people or more. In fact, that truck killed more than a lone gunman could, open firing. And if someone saw that truck, it's running down the road, that's it. Before he did any damage, if someone was a concealed and carry, someone who was responsible, the NRA, it's about a responsible gun ownership, locking it up safely, using it responsibly, trained, sane people owning guns, the right people using it for protection. So if there were people and that guy, if he knew that terrorist driving that truck, if he knew that there were people that's a gun-free zone. He knows it's a gun-free zone. The school was a gun-free zone. Schools are gun-free zones. They're easy targets, aren't they? If he knew there wasn't a gun-free zone and that nobody in France has guns, boom, he might not have done the truck attack, killed all those people. There's children lying all over the street. So other people who create trucks, they're doing it to kill children. Maybe you could make that argument because there's an awful lot of terrorists using trucks and killing massive amounts of people and children. And there were little children lying in the street that just wanted to see fireworks. But someone quickly with a gun shoot the tire out. You can just shoot the tire out too. And then he careens out of control. Or shoot directly at him. Stop that truck attack. Stop it. You know what he's doing. You know what he's going for. So you can't tell me that a gun in a school, it's going to be turned on the children. When all the security guards that are protecting Hollywood, the Hollywood that wants us to not have guns, and the politicians and the royalty, all these people who are protected with guns, all these wealthy people, that are protected with security guards with guns don't, well, probably because we are the little people. We are the subjects. Our lives are not that important to protect. Are they? You know, we're not worth it. You know, the only thing we keep hearing that from these same people is how the population of the earth should go down. Not them. Anybody who thinks that way, well, if they want the population to go down, they can be the first one volunteering for that. And none of them will. And that's the thing. The people who want the population to go down want us fighting with each other, want us warring with each other, and want us completely unprotected. Completely protected, living in mansions behind walls. Right. That's why this is so incredibly ridiculous. But here's a story. This is one most people don't know. And here it's archived. Smithsonian. 1927 bombing that remains America's deadliest school massacre. 91 years ago, a Bass school in Michigan was rigged with explosives. And you see, they had these little one-school farmhouses, and they put them all together, and they built a larger schoolhouse. Rural village of 300 people, 10 miles out of Lansing, the capital. It was only built 5 years earlier. It had about 314 students in it. And it was from elementary through high school. On May 18th, it was the last day of school. At 8:45 a.m., the north wing of the school rocked, exploded, completely blown away. And Irene Dunham, she was supposed to graduate, 19 at the time. She didn't go to school that day. She had a sore throat. But she could hear that blast from miles away, and she knew where it came from. And her family drove as fast as they could to the schoolhouse, and they said that there was a pile of children underneath a collapsed roof, and you couldn't recognize anyone because their arms and legs were sticking out, and underneath the fallen plaster and blood. It was just awful. Called the Bath School Disaster. And you know who did it? This guy named Andrew Kehoe. He said about Nicholas Cruz that he tortured animals to death and he dissected them constantly. He was really, really evil. This guy tortured animals too. He beat his horse to death. And then the day of the bombing, he rigged the school with bombs to scrap all the stuff that was left over from World War I. He rigged it in the basement, and then he had a lot of kerosene. They found 500 pounds of unexploded dynamite in the basement, along with a container of gasoline that was placed there to cause a fire if the other explosives didn't go off. So he really rigged that place. And you know what? He belonged to the school board. How about that? And he burned his own house down, killed his wife, and killed the rest of his farm animals in that. And then apparently they were trying to use ropes to lift the roof off of the children to see if they could save as many people as they possibly could. He drove up in his truck and he pulled out his gun and he shot at his truck. It was full of explosives and killed people nearby, and also the school superintendent and Kehoe himself. So there were 44 people that died, and 38 of them were students. And people used to come from miles around to, for a while there, to look at this disaster until Charles Lindbergh made his maiden crossing over the Atlantic in an airplane. And so when that happened, this wasn't so, you know how people, like a disaster happens and then we kind of go to the next. And we forget about the last one. Except, you see, this one, the Parkland school shooting, that won't be forgotten because, you see, there were other shootings, like the church shooting, or the church in Texas. Nobody talks about that anymore. Nobody talks about the fact that the guy was abusive to his wife, almost killed his wife and child. Women's March doesn't care about that. Women's March doesn't care about, they back Louis Farrakhan as an anti-Semite who said that, when God puts you in the ovens, it's forever, and that Hitler was a good man. See, the Women's March is behind, the leaders are behind a guy who said that, and Islam, wife beating, is permissible. And then, of course, Linda Sarsour is Muslim. So these are the people who are running. So it's not about women living in peace and protected from violence of any kind. They've all got their own agenda. And now they're turning on the white women. The white women who were there saying, hey, me too, I had some kind of sexual assault too. No, they're teaching, they have classes for them to teach them how they've been oppressing the women who are of color. Even though they may never have oppressed anybody in their lives, you must convince the white people that they've oppressed someone. So they're turning on it. It's all about anger and violence. It's not about love and peace and coming together and healing, living in a peaceful world where there is no violence. There's violence within all these groups. These groups are all calling for violence. Every group you can name, every group that I have named, calls for violence. And what they want to disarm the people who could actually save your life. Should somebody detonate a bomb, try to run you over with a truck. And there was that Somali guy who on campus who ran the people over in a truck, and that he came out with a butcher knife and started stabbing people. In England, guns are outlawed, but there's a tremendous amount of knife attacks, hammer attacks, and acid attacks. In fact, it's against the law to carry knives and hammers. Even if you're somebody who is there to fix something, you can't walk around with that hammer. You see, take the guns away. Rocks are also a weapon of assault, aren't they? What problem have you solved? And there's truck attacks, explosions. Remember the concert in England when all those mostly little young girls died going to that concert? It was an explosion. That wasn't guns. Guns are outlawed. See, when guns are outlawed, you've got other ways of killing. And that soldier that was killed in the streets of London by a machete because he was an Afghani war veteran. Prince Harry is an Afghani war veteran. Well, he's protected. Nothing's going to happen to him. He's totally protected. But he was making mischief. You see, if you make mischief in Muslim lands, it says in the Quran, if you do that, then the penalty is death. And so the man who did it, who hacked, came right on camera holding the hatchet and said, this is why he did it. No guns, took guns away. So, it doesn't, taking the guns away, lots of ways to kill. Boston bombers, pressure cookers. Blew off arms and legs and killed a bunch of people. Austin bomber. Take the guns away and take the cars away. You have to take all metal away because people are making their own knives. People can make their own guns because you can put it into this 3D model making machine, and they're making their own guns. So, and then of course there's the open border. I agree. Why should 3,300 students be penalized for the failure of security to do their job? This is the best one. Clear backpacks, mistake, because now if someone asks me for a pencil, I have to give it to them. They'll see right through my bag and my lies. Gross. Totally. And this just in from the march. Wait till you hear Hogg. He was magnificent. Magnificato. Ottawa. First it was armbands, now it salutes. #March for Our Lives seems dedicated to reviving the totalitarianism that brought so much bloodshed to the last century. The demonization of groups in society, calls for violence, etc. This is why Americans own guns. #MAGA. Twitter.com. Real Severad. Magnificato. Speak so communistically and so Hitleristically to us. So sweet. James Lee, what is this salute? Who is we? Black Labrador. This dude's taste of fame is going to his head bigly. On Saturday, an enraged student from Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School gave a fiery speech and at its conclusion threw up a salute that ignited a firestorm on social media. Far-left activist
He's a star.
David Hogg,
our star,
attacked Republicans during his speech saying, I'm going to start off by putting this price tag right here as a reminder for you guys to know how much Marco Rubio took for every student's life in Florida. I'd like to know how much money the sheriffs got from the Obama administration for not arresting people like Nicholas Cruz. Hogg continued with his Democratic talking points, stating, let's put the USA over the NRA. Toward the end of his approximately 4-minute speech, Hogg said, thank you. I love you all. God bless you all. And God bless America. We can and we will change the world. Oh, he's going to change the world. Maybe this is the guy that's going to be the new leader of the world order. You know, that anti-guy, if you know what I mean. At that moment, Hogg threw up a salute that sent Twitter into a frenzy. The communist revolutionary salute. Those of us who know history know all too well. Not one thing about the sheriffs, 4 of them, standing outside the building doing nothing, listening to the gunfires go off, doing nothing. Nothing about barring the EMTs from going in to save lives, even if it meant risking their own lives, which they had agreed to do, which I would have done. Nothing to do with the, how many times was the FBI informed about Nicholas Cruz, that he stated exactly what he was going to do, how he was going to do it. How many people did he intimidate? Did he tell he was going to kill? How many little animals did he mutilate over the years? He dressed like ISIS. A woman on January 5th anonymously called up the FBI and said exactly what he was going to do, what she feared he was going to do, and what he had been doing, like cutting up the animals, dissecting them, claiming he was going to shoot people up, he was going to shoot the school up, that he was crazy, he was a psychotic. And everybody ignored it. And the Obama administration told Broward County that if you don't arrest the teens, so they would stop the school to prison pipeline, if you don't arrest them, then you'll get money from the government. Virtually, the Obama administration was paying them off not to arrest crazy people like Nicholas Cruz, people that were dangerous. They knew he was going to do it. They've known for years he was going to do it. He posted his own name and said he was going to do this professionally. Whose fault is this really? Marco Rubio and the NRA? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? When I first heard him, I actually heard him from another room. The sound of his voice sounded like my ex-boyfriend who was the communist revolutionary. But I didn't say anything because the kid had gone through, I guess he was in a closet and heard some gunfire. Like my ex was in a building in New York City, far away from the buildings that fell, and every year he goes on the radio and talks about his experience with 9/11. Never mind the people that were actually there. People got killed, families of people that got killed, people who were injured, the rescue workers. I didn't say anything because, this guy is, there's usually an outpouring of sympathy and care, and I got really angry when I first heard about this, that this was going on and nobody had done it. You would think, I thought after Sandy Hook that Obama would have done something about it, that the schools would have been safe. So I was furious myself. If you ask me, I'm an amateur, but I could tell you some things that could have stopped that real easy. Little did I know that not only was the FBI notified how many times, the sheriffs went to his house 36 times, never arrested him once. He brought guns to school. He held guns to people's heads. How many more things could this guy could have done that said that he was going to do this? And it's Marco Rubio's and the NRA's fault. You are delusional. That's a communist revolutionary arms signal. And somebody on Twitter said it. I was hesitant to say anything about the sound of this kid's voice, who this kid is, because he had gone through a tragedy. But like I said, he sounded like my ex, who also went through a tragedy of being slightly in the vicinity of something. This guy could have been closer, but he seems pretty strong to me, and he's blaming entirely all the wrong people. If I went through a traumatic event, blame the right people. And I can give you a list of the people whose fault it is. Sadly, there are 17 people that died, and the only name we know is David Hogg. Like he's got a late-night TV show, and you hear the announcer say, "Coming up next, David Hogg, and his guest, David Hogg."